Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Meniere's Muse podcast. My name is Heather, and I was diagnosed with Meniere's disease and vestibular migraine in 2017 and found myself craving connection. I found the more vestibular warriors I met, the more I was inspired, and that my hope for healing came to light. I created this podcast to share stories of vestibular warriors, regardless of their diagnosis or where they are in their journey, to give hope and so no one feels alone. If this podcast may benefit you or someone in your life, please forward this to them and make sure you hit the subscribe button. If you know someone with an inspiring story, I would love to hear about it. Please find my contact information below. We all have a story. Let yours inspire others. Kristy Carabello lives in Philadelphia with her husband Nate and their Cavapoo, Lucy. She was diagnosed with Meniere's disease and vestibular migraine in 2017. After experiencing 8 to 10 debilitating vertigo episodes a month, she began tracking her activities on paper and noticing trends with her triggers and episodes of vertigo. This compelled her to look for an app to assist with tracking. She was unable to find one for vertigo, so she created one, Vertige. In this conversation, she will share more details about her new app, Vertige, which is geared for those with vestibular symptoms and even prepares reports that can be shared with your practitioners, which can assist develop a personal care plan. Kristy experienced so much anxiety around her vertigo that she stopped doing many of the activities she loved. Over time, she found that movement and meditation helped tremendously, both physically and mentally. Kristy is a certified yoga teacher and Reiki Master Practitioner, and shares these practices with others and hopes to help more vestibular warriors bring balance back to their mind, body, and soul. Kristy recently became a VeDA Ambassador and is excited to be volunteering on the Communications Committee. This is all so exciting. Please help me welcome Kristy. Well, Kristy, thanks so much for being here. I'm so excited. No problem. Would you start off by telling us a little bit about you and your vestibular journey?
Sure. So my name's Kristy Carabello. I'm based out of Philly. I was diagnosed in 2017 with Meniere's disease and vestibular migraine. And I feel like a lot of people, it took a while to get to that diagnosis. So backing up prior to that, I had like a few little vertigo episodes, like 2 that I can think of before it really got into the thick of it. I worked in cosmetics for about 10 years. So I was an account manager for Benefit Cosmetics, and I oversaw all the Ultas from Pittsburgh down to Fredericksburg, Virginia. So I had a big territory. I was on the road every day, helping to hire people to represent us in store, train, do all these support events, all these different things. So there was one time that I was on a plane heading to Chicago for a sales meeting, and I had been on my laptop and kind of like looked up down the aisle and had that, you know, when your eyes do that just like womp womp thing, and it just was super quick, and I was kind of like, what the heck was that? And then a few months later, I was on my computer at home, just sitting on my sofa, and had like a full-blown vertigo episode and had no idea what was happening, was sick, and I was just like, what is going on? But then it didn't happen again. So it was one of those, I just kind of chalked it up. I was like, all right, that was weird, but I'm not going to pay too much attention. So then I kind of remember in the beginning too, my ear was constantly full, and I just thought it was springtime at that point. It was allergies. I ended up going to an allergist. That was like my first doctor that I hit up, and they did the allergy testing, and they were like, you're allergic to earth. You know, you're allergic to everything on earth. So take, allergy medicine and you'll be fine. And we did a hearing test at that appointment, which I think is like a big thing to add in there.
Right.
So then it was like the fullness, the tinnitus, the vertigo started. And one of the first times that it happened, like when it started happening frequently, I had been out, and I was like, something's not right. I don't know what's going on. So I drove home and I parked down the street, and I called my husband, and I was like, you have to come outside. Like, I'm walking up the block. I don't know what's going on. And he saw me and he was like, are you drunk? Like, you're walking sideways. Like, what's happening? And that I feel like was one of the first things that the memories that I have that really started like right before things were getting really, really bad. And at my worst, I was having up to 10 episodes a month where it was just on the sofa, in bed, can't move, can't open your
Yeah.
eyes,
Yeah.
sick, and all that kind of stuff. So went to a doctor at Jefferson Hospital, and he had kind of, I think at that point thought it was mainly vestibular migraine because we didn't even do a hearing test because my last one had been within the certain amount of time. He was like, okay, I feel like that's recent enough.
That original test come back with any hearing loss?
No, everything was completely normal. So fast forward, I don't know how many months, I see this doctor and um, I'm not big on taking medication. Like that's something that I don't love to do if I don't have to. So I didn't really take the medication and follow the protocols that he suggested right off the bat. And, we did the food, I was tracking food. And it's funny because at that time I was eating chickpeas like practically every day at lunch. And then soon found that they are like a major trigger for me to have vertigo. Chickpeas, avocados, they're like two of the things that I found along the way that
Oh,
are
yeah, that stinks. Thank goodness those were not one of my triggers, but I did eliminate them at one time to see, and thank goodness. But yeah, that stinks.
yeah, it's crazy. Like just things you wouldn't even expect too.
Right.
So then I ended up going to the hospital of the University of Pennsylvania for balance testing. And that's when it was like the aha moment. So I had another hearing test. It was about 2 to 3 hours long in total. And they do the hearing test, they strap you in a chair. Have you had that done?
Oh yes.
So, like they put the goggles on you, they spin the chair around. Not fun.
Not
But
fun at all.
that was where we were able to compare the two hearing tests and everything else. And it came down to like, yes, you do have Meniere's disease. So that was probably 2017-ish. And yeah, that's how I finally like came to the diagnosis.
Wow. And you have been diagnosed with Meniere's and vestibular migraine. Do you have a history of migraines?
I don't,
You don't.
it's funny. I feel like I had one migraine when I was younger that I can recall. And around the time that this was all happening, I do kind of remember having something where I was in my car and I felt like something like oil was over my eye, like my makeup or something got in my eye because I was seeing like spots or something was my vision wasn't right. But now thinking back, I feel like that probably could have been a migraine-ish type of thing, but never migraine like you hear when people are like, I have it all the time, or motion sickness runs in my family. And my doctor has said that that's a connection to the motion sickness and the vertigo and vestibular migraine.
Do you have pain at all? Like when they say vestibular migraine, I know that vestibular migraines are considered like the silent migraine for most people. I have both. I have painful migraines that I've had for years, but then I also have vestibular migraines that present for me as pressure on my head and numbness down my face. Do you recognize any of that in you?
No,
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 no.
it's mainly, I think with the vestibular migraine, it comes down to a lot of food triggers and hormones. That's a big one.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. What's
Yeah.
your biggest challenge today? I know that you are pretty much not, I hate to say the word remission, but you're doing pretty good.
I don't want to say it and jinx it.
I know. So what would you say is the biggest challenge for you today?
Um, I still have some anxiety around if a vertigo episode is going to happen. Not anywhere close to what I used to have. I mean, it got bad because especially with the traveling for work, I feel like I was having so much anxiety and I wasn't acknowledging it. I wasn't like doing anything proactive for it. I was just traveling
Right.
constantly and, stopping at Starbucks all the time and drinking caffeine and, wondering why I was so jittery and like anxious all the time. But And then once the episodes were happening and so sporadic and I didn't understand when they were gonna come
Right.
and, they had been so bad, I had so much anxiety at that point, like, scared to go out by myself, even if I was out with other people, I was always just so nervous that I was gonna have an episode that I wasn't present, I wasn't, enjoying myself.
Yeah.
Um, so I still have some anxiety of that, but it's much better than it used to be. And now, I do take my medication if I need it. So, I took
Yeah.
verapamil for a while and had great results on that. And then just decided like to wean myself off to see how I would be without it. And,
Right.
I just have my little rescue meds if I need them. And it's been, yeah, knock on something, like they've been good so far for a while now.
That's great. Are you still working in that same position?
No, I left there in 2016, so it's been a while now.
Was this a
And
result from these symptoms?
it wasn't,
Okay.
well, it was more, it had been 6.5 years that I had been on the road and I was having anxiety and the travel. I was newly married at that time too. And I was just kind of like, I don't want to be in a car, on a plane, traveling every day the
Right.
way the time had come. So it was probably at the end of that time also that my dad got diagnosed with a glioblastoma brain tumor. So with that, stress and being so upset about that as well, I feel like that really, my symptoms came out a lot after that too. So it all kind of
Oh,
happened at the same time, like leaving that job, my dad with that, my symptoms, you can start to see a little bit of a trend looking back.
when do you think that the pivotal moment was for you in your healing?
That's a great question. I think once once I started taking the medication and in my head I would be like, I am doing everything that I can to prevent an episode. I'm not eating the things that I shouldn't. I'm watching what I eat. Like I'm trying to exercise at that time too. That was something that kind of went out the window because even, going to the gym, I remember, and I've done yoga for like over 20 years, I guess, and sporadically, but I remember being in a yoga class and at the end being in final shavasana, and it's supposed to be when you relax, and I like started feeling dizzy and got up and was having vertigo, and I was like, no. So even just going to the gym was creating some anxiety and like, at that time. So one of the big things though, and it was with the help of like my husband, my sister, my friends who were just like, you're doing everything you should be doing. So, you can't focus on it as much. You have to just live your life. And, and if it
Good
happens,
advice.
yeah. And I mean, that was a big thing. And it was baby steps from there. And then I was tracking. I started tracking everything, which was a big help for me because there's so many triggers that can contribute to a vertigo episode. So I was just doing everything by hand and I had a planner and I was kind of like, it was like habit tracking. I was doing it, where I'm not a very good artist, but like trying to like make the circles with the different colors and like doing it all fancy.
Yeah, like these fancy bullet journals they have.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah. So
okay.
I would just do it in my own planner and just in the beginning of the month, it was hormones, it was exercise, it was like a bunch of different things that I just started like wanting to track to see if it had any correlation.
Right.
And that's when I started realizing, yes, like right before my period, I'm so much worse and I shouldn't eat chickpeas or do this or do that. And it was so helpful just to start keeping track. And then, in my head too, it gave me like, I guess, a little sense of control over something I felt like I had no control over. So
Yeah.
I could start to do, things that would help me instead of hinder.
I love that you say that because I think there's like a mental shift when we realize that we do have a lot of control over a lot of those symptoms. Let me backtrack a little bit before we go forward with the tracking. Did you follow any particular elimination plan nutritionally? I know I followed the Heal Your Headache diet, but I know there's so much out there. I'm just curious on what you found helpful.
My doctor, I think he actually suggested the Heal Your Headache. I think that was the one that I tried in the beginning. And
Mm.
I'm not good with being consistent all the time. So I like would try it here and there. I didn't, I feel like I didn't really go through it fully. Um, but I think Heal Your Headache. Is there a book that goes with that too?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Like, I have
It's a
that book.
great book because it doesn't only touch on the nutritional aspect, it teaches you like your threshold for migraine and all the other causative agents and stuff like that. It's really, really good. I actually use it as a reference manual when I'm having a tough day to go back and just look at it. So it is a good one to have on hand.
Okay, I'll have to pull it out because you know what's funny? I remember getting the book and then seeing that like apple pie with like ice cream or something was one of the desserts, and I was like, oh my God, that sounds so unhealthy. Like I'm not even gonna follow this.
Oh, I don't even know what I don't even remember that. I
I'll have
remember
to look.
going through the book with all the foods and highlighting everything that I actually ate and then pulling those off. So
Okay, yeah,
tough. It's tough.
it is. It's funny. I was the way I finally realized about the chickpeas, actually, I was like supposed to go out to tailgate at a concert with some people, and I was making a pasta salad, and I was making using that like chickpea pasta.
Huh?
And because this is something else that I find really interesting. Like I used to eat like all varieties of things like the chickpea pasta and like, trying to stay away from gluten or this and that. But
Right.
so many of the so-called healthier options would give me vertigo or just not sit right, which I find really interesting. And I haven't done a whole lot of research, maybe you have, just on that like microbiome gut connection, because why is it that certain things we eat, like I could eat chickpeas up until a certain time and then all of a sudden they give me this awful reaction.
Right. And it may be just a temporary thing. So maybe in 6 months or a year, you might be able to eat those again. Because I
Hmm.
know that I just recently last week found a new trigger in red grapefruit. And
Really?
it's like, oh my gosh, I can't have grapefruit. Yeah. And I was, so I was like, okay, just mark another one on there. But then also I can bring things back in that I wasn't able to drink or eat at the beginning. So I think it's just a matter of, all right, I'm going to test this again and see if I can do it because our bodies are constantly changing. So
Yeah,
yeah, I would try chickpeas again for sure.
I know, and I feel like it's been long enough, but now I'm like so scared. But I feel like even just a little bit, like I might have like a tiny piece of guacamole, like just to see, and because I mentioned like at the time I was eating chickpeas literally like every day at
Yeah,
lunch, and so then it makes more sense that way. But what happened
moderation.
when you had the red grapefruit? Did you go into
Oh,
like full-fledged vertigo?
I did not. I just had a migraine the entire day, like a bedridden migraine, and it
Oh,
was not good. And it was for a solid 24 hours. So,
wow.
yeah, it was like, oh, this isn't good. And I was like, and I only had, no, I had the whole thing. I was thinking maybe I had half of it, but no, it was awful because I live in Florida where we get all our fresh citrus, and citrus is a big migraine trigger, and it wasn't for me for the longest time, and now it is. So just another thing to avoid for a while, but I can have avocados and
So
chickpeas.
lucky.
But and I can't have what is it? Almonds. Almonds are a trigger for me.
Oh,
I know, and they're usually one to help with migraines.
but
So
and that's the thing, it's so hard to decipher because you can look on a list of things that are supposed to help with migraines, but then with like vestibular migraine, it's a whole different animal.
it really is.
And the
Really is.
tyramine, like I know that's a big thing, tyramine in ripened fruit. And I don't know if that includes nuts too with the tyramine, but
I think particular nuts.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure. So going back to the tracking, so you went one step further with the tracking. Can you share with us about this app that you developed,
Yes.
Vertige?
I'm so excited about this. So like I mentioned, I was tracking everything by hand in my planner, and I at the time was actually working in PR and working with like a lot of tech companies, and seeing them like talking about their apps and all this stuff, I started to be like, oh, you know what, I'm doing all this tracking for Vertigo episodes, let me find an app on my phone
Mm.
that I can use to really keep track of, so I'm not like doing it just on paper all the time. And I was looking, and there's so many migraine tracking apps, but none that related specific to vertigo. And I was just like, this is a huge white space. Like, let me, I think I want to make one, like make an app specific. So I am a part of a bunch of the Facebook groups, that Meniere's disease groups, vertigo. So I went into one of the groups and just put a post up and was like, hey, I track by hand, would anybody be interested in an app that you could track and try to identify triggers and trends in your vertigo episodes? And I got a really good response. There was one woman who said she would still prefer to just like write everything out by hand. And I was like, absolutely, like I totally get that. But everybody else that responded was like, oh yeah, this is something I'd totally be interested in. So I was like, okay, well, how do I go about doing this? So like, because I told you I worked in cosmetics, like account management, PR, marketing, stuff like that. So I was just like, this is a whole different animal. So I went on to Upwork and found an app developer to work with. And yeah, I was like, all right, how do we get started? So
That's
I know,
exciting.
it's so exciting. So from there, like, we had our first couple phone calls. He actually suggested that I like kind of map everything out, almost like a wireframe, but like I
Mhm.
did it in a very basic way where I just printed out pictures, images of iPhones, like
Mhm.
just a blank screen type of thing. And then literally just hand drew everything I wanted, what I pictured from the beginning to the end. And then by May, we launched in iOS for Apple, which was super exciting.
Yes.
And we've been, testing it along the way. Then yeah, so then, and I haven't done any like advertising or anything yet, pretty much just like going through the Facebook groups and seeing like who wants to help and be a tester. And you know the big thing was just for me to get feedback, like customer feedback,
Sure.
user feedback on the design and just different functionality, so we can like keep updating this. So the goal is to like make updates, make the iOS version, the Apple version perfect, and then replicate it into Android.
Oh, awesome. So just so everybody knows, it's Vertige, and it's spelled Vertige.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
That's the name of the app, and it tracks, I guess, weather, sleep. I have a little list here: movement, food triggers, water and caffeine intake, screen time. Even I thought that was fascinating. We need to have that.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Sure.
mindfulness and so much more. And then it identifies trends daily, weekly, and what else? And oh, the reports.
Yes. So what you do, it's almost like a daily summary that you go in and
Okay.
just, when it comes to screen time or sleep, it's like a sliding scale for how many hours. Or you can put in what trigger foods you ate that day or what medications you took. So it's you entering all the data, like, and
Mhm.
little for the weather, it's like, was it cloudy, overcast? One of the pieces of feedback that I got that I thought was amazing was that, can we make it so the app tracks everybody geographically and then updates, on its own what the weather's like in your city or town for that day.
Right.
So
Right.
that's something that we're going to work on, which,
That would
because
be
that
awesome.
was awesome.
Yes. Have you heard of WeatherX?
Yes.
And that one, I had it downloaded for a while, but I'm so used to the weather changes in my body saying, oh, the barometric pressure changes are coming, so I don't even need an app for that. But it is a fantastic app if you're trying to figure out your triggers and if barometric pressure plays a role, because it does warn you. Put in your earplugs and all that good stuff.
Did you buy the earplugs?
I did not buy those. I had some other earplugs, and I really want to try them because with us traveling, and I went through Texas this year, and I had the most debilitating symptoms I had coming through Texas this year. I didn't have the earplugs. That would have been, prime time to try them. I've heard nothing but good things about them. Have you tried them?
I haven't, but I had that app downloaded on my phone for a little bit. And
Right.
then last I heard, though, they were taken out of some stores. And after that happened, I kind of stopped like looking for them. I didn't purchase them
Oh,
online,
right.
but I'm fascinated like by the science behind it.
Absolutely. I know. I need to find out more about that because there are so many people out there in the community that swear by them.
Really?
So, yeah. And I don't think they're too expensive considering, what custom earplugs cost. You know what I mean? And if it's going to help you and it ties in with the app, I think it's perfect. But,
Yeah.
but yeah, going back to yours, I think that would be a great thing with the geographic locations. Perfect, perfect.
Yeah, that was awesome feedback. And then, so once you upload that data, you put in your data for the day, it goes into a weekly and bi-weekly report.
Okay.
So we track 5 to 6 different things. Hormones are one of them. So that's why 5 or 6,
Right.
depending male or female. And we have like episode severity and duration. And right now, that just goes as like a 0 to 10 scale, thinking my mindset behind that initially was just like, okay, well, if I'm off balance today or, slightly dizzy, it would be, more along the 2 or 3. Maybe if it's tinnitus, you would just gauge it. And then 10 would be like full-fledged vertigo episode.
Does it
So
break down into the individual, not triggers, individual symptoms, or is it just overall symptoms daily?
not yet. So that
Okay.
is something else like we're going to start adding in because that was more feedback that we got. Just people want to be more specific. If it's tinnitus, ear fullness, dizziness, off balance, like that too. So yeah, that'll be something coming. And that data populates into a bar graph on the reports. So you can see, on Friday, I had an episode that lasted 2 hours and it varies in the color of like a light gray to dark gray, depending on the severity. Then
Okay.
you can choose like the others. Was it, did you have a lot of screen time? Did you not get a lot of sleep? Blah, blah, blah. Click those on the bottom and they populate into line graphs. So then
Hmm.
you can start to see like what's intersecting on the days that you had
Nice.
episodes. So yes, and my whole thing too is like, it's great for you to be able to start to identify. And then maybe if you can't, you can take it to your doctor or you just have it to show when you first go to a doctor or anytime throughout. Just
Right.
have that hard data makes a huge difference.
It does because sometimes we forget, even with journaling, we're like, yeah, I know I had some bad days, but I really don't know what happened on those
Mhm.
days. But to go back and to see that, yeah. Well, that is super exciting. Even though I am where I am in my journey, I would still love to test it out just because there's so many people out there that need this, definitely need this.
As soon as we get to Android, you'll be one of the first people
Yay!
I let them for sure. And
Well,
it's cool. Like, do you do a lot of like exercise and movement, yoga, anything like that?
I don't do a lot of it, and I will be completely honest. On my best days, I do have a morning practice where I rise and do meditation and yoga, and
Mhm.
then now we're just starting to walk. My daughter and I walk. Yeah, I'm glad you asked that because I wanted to ask. You said you've been doing yoga for years,
Mhm.
right? Um, and you moved on to being, how do you say that, Reiki Master?
Reiki, yes.
Reiki Master. Is that because of the vestibular symptoms, or is this something you
So
were doing prior?
Reiki was something I was doing prior, and Reiki is like a form of energy I say like healing or medicine lightly, like I don't want to get like too into that, but
Woo-woo.
yeah. So it's funny because after college, I went to skincare school and became an esthetician. And
Mm.
then I graduated from skincare school, was doing a facial on the owner of a spa for a job interview. And at the end, the owner was just like, "Oh, your hands were so hot when they were on my face, and I saw the color purple." And
Mm.
I was just kind of like, "Okay, what does that mean? Did I get the job? I have no idea." So I had a holistic doctor that I used to go to, and I had actually seen. I saw the doctor's husband, so I saw her husband in the office, and I talked to him about it because I was just like, this person, said this, and he's like, "Oh, you do Reiki, right?" And I was just kind of like, "Reiki, like what is that? I have no idea." So he connected me with this wonderful woman, and there's different levels of Reiki, like Reiki 1, 2, 3, then you get into like Reiki Master Practitioner, teacher, things like that. So, so that was something I've done for a long time, but yoga, I always wanted to go to like yoga teacher training and just always put it off. I was like, okay, do I really need like another certification in something like,
Right.
and would enjoy it, like going to classes, off and on throughout the years. And it was, I guess, it may have been around 2020. I think we were on like a bit of a lockdown, and I found this online teacher program. And at first I was like, oh, I'm not sure if I want to do the online program. And they just had amazing reviews, and they offered so much information. So I went through it and really started noticing a difference after days that I did yoga, that I felt so much better. And I don't know if it has to do with like the cervical spine alignment and just like and I stretch. I've always been a stretcher. Like, do you like to stretch at
I
all?
do. I do.
I'm
Yes.
a total stretcher.
Yeah.
Like,
I know I didn't realize how much I naturally just not stress, stretch. Until I noticed that when my daughter wakes in the morning, she does all these stretches before she gets out of bed. And I'm looking at her, I'm like, where did she learn that? But she just naturally just does that. And I'm like, I think she's mirroring me because
mm,
I do the same thing before I get out of bed, but I don't even notice I'm doing it anymore. I just kind of do it. And
uh-huh.
then, yeah, so yeah, you do feel so much better.
Oh my gosh, so much better. Like, I'm a big, you know, at night, whatever, something will be on TV, and I just get on the floor and like do my stretches, my neck, my legs, everything. And I can tell a difference the next morning on days that, like, nights that I didn't do it. Um, Huge difference. So I started to then, like, back to the yoga, I was realizing like, wow, I feel so much better. And you know how it is too, like when you're in these episodes, or some people get very depressed and you're not getting off the sofa or out of bed, and it makes you feel so much worse, like overall. And so then I'm noticing, okay, well, the days that I'm moving and I'm being active and I'm doing stuff, I feel so much better just with the vertigo, with everything overall.
Right.
Um, so I just started teaching yoga about 6 months ago, and so excited, like teaching in a studio by my house and like loving it. So meditation and yoga are things that I want to incorporate either into the app or on our website
Hmm.
sometime this year. We're going to work at, because I
Cool.
feel like it goes hand in hand too. And then you can see like on the tracker, did I exercise today? Did I do yoga? Did I do mindfulness? Like the meditation, just helping people with anxiety, depression in that case, and then just being able to move and feel your body and like get off the sofa. And I know people have so many varying degrees. Like
Right.
some people can't even turn their heads because they'll get vertigo. So there's going to be so many different stages um,
Yes.
that people like that will have to get into. But I'm really excited for that.
That is so cool. And it's crazy. People think that when you jump into yoga, especially when you're experiencing vertigo like we do at the beginning, and it's just all those symptoms are so amped up that they can't do things. I remember because I never did yoga prior to my symptoms, and I read Gabby Bernstein, one of her books, and just totally immersed myself in that. I don't even know why I went there, but when I was having a vertigo attack, one of those, I don't even know what you call it, but I tried it one day, laying on my back and putting my feet against the wall, and it really calmed me, the anxiety down. And there's certain, even just doing those poses, just one pose, not doing the entire flow, how that would help me. And then slowly I was able to, incorporate more poses, but
That's
and
awesome.
yeah,
That
it's not just
specifically like helps your parasympathetic nervous system to be activated. So yeah, that's great. Like that's so cool. And I love that kind of stuff too. Like when I'm teaching my classes, a lot of it is like this pose is great for digestion, or this is like wind relieving pose if you're like excess vata, if you're into Ayurveda. And there's just so many, like that's what I've always been so interested in. Like
yeah,
even when I first started yoga, when they would be like, well, this pose helps you with this or X
right.
and Y. And like there's so many different ways you can go about healing or just taking care of yourself, self-care, that yeah. Oh, that's so exciting. I love that you said that.
It is. Because I think everybody gets intimidated by it. That it's not all woo woo, and it's not.
Yeah.
It's all part of it. I think in order to move into healing, it's not just the spiritual aspect. It's not just the nutritional aspect. It's everything all together. The physical, spiritual, everything works together as a component. And I
Yes.
think even if you're doing one movement to improve, I still have a lot of anxiety that I wake up in the middle of the night for no reason. And I'll make myself get out of bed and I'll do the ragdoll pose just because that helps me get back to where I can get back to sleep and push all that anxiety away. So
Yeah.
it's not all too many movements. You just have to find what you can do. And I love that you're saying that those different poses are for different things. I think people have a misconception that you have to do all of it.
Right.
And,
And
and
that's a good point.
it, it's so untrue. It's
And you
just
don't
like
have
meditation. You don't have to sit still for 2 hours or 30 minutes
to.
for that. You can do something for 2 minutes. I mean, you zone out when you're washing dishes, you're taking a
Yeah.
walk, you meditate. There's so many different
That's
variations.
so true. And it is. It doesn't have to be like your mind is clear and you're in this like Buddhist type of feeling,
No.
or like no, like you said. And it's funny because my husband is the exact opposite when it comes to things like that with yoga and meditation. And I'll be like, "Come on, I'll do like let's do a yoga class tonight, me and you." And he's just like, "No, I'm okay."
Yeah.
And he like has a stressful job, so I'm always like, "Okay, let's meditate." And his thing is though, he's like, he goes out into the woods and does stuff. He goes on his motorcycle and he's like, when I get into second gear on my
Mhm.
motorcycle, that is my meditation.
Yep.
When
I can
I'm,
see that.
yeah. And when I'm like doing whatever in the woods, like that is my meditation. I'm like, I get it. Like
Yeah.
it makes complete sense. I'm like, but don't you want to try it with me too? Like,
No, it's
he
different.
does it.
It's crazy when I get away from my practice, my mindful practice, I try to find something else. And I found last year when I stepped away a bit, because my symptoms amp up when I step away from my practice. And
Hmm.
I stepped away from meditation and I found an app. It was photography meditation. And
Oh,
they give you an assignment once a day, if it's a color or a tree or something, and you are to notice that throughout the day. Like notice that yellow or notice, and it's the simple things that just bring you back to present, and got me back to my practice. So
that's really interesting. That's cool. I like that.
yeah. Or
And
I mean, even the tree, to go out there and just look at this tree for 5 minutes or whatever the case may be. And just to really absorb all that and to see, it's amazing. And it makes you just feel like part of something bigger than yourself.
yeah, well, that's true too. And that's a good thing for some of us, I think, with these
Yeah,
diseases to like get out of our own heads, our own bodies, and realize like, see a bigger picture.
right.
But something that I wanted to touch on, so in the middle of the night, if you wake up and you're
Hmm.
having this anxiety, alternate nostril breathing is something you can
Do you
do.
have to do this?
Yep. So you
Okay.
can take your your right hand and your thumb and your ring finger, and then you'll want to inhale through your left nostril because that's the more calming. So
Okay.
you would just gently pinch off the right, inhale, and then close off the left and exhale through the right. So inhale through the left, exhale through the right.
Okay.
And
Cool. I'm gonna have to try that.
do that because that works. Like that is one of like the first things that I want to share with people when we start posting about stuff, because breathing, that pranayama in yoga, like it's so important. And there's so many times that you realize like you're not, maybe you're holding your breath, or maybe you're just doing these very shallow breaths from like just filling your chest up but not all the way down into your belly.
Right. Yeah.
And it can make a huge difference. Like when you're having an episode, when you're waking up with anxiety, if you're just anxious in general. So try that and let
I
me know what
will. I'm
happens.
so glad you mentioned that. There are so many people I talk to that their anxiety is when they're alone at night, when everyone else is sleeping, and it's more than anxiety; it's almost panic. So yeah, so I'm so happy you mentioned that. So I can't wait to follow you on Instagram for more of those breathing techniques.
Oh, yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes. I can't
cool,
wait to
cool.
start posting about all that.
Yeah. See, Kristy, how can we support you in the community?
You know, if you follow me, follow Vertige on all social media. It's Vertige_app on Instagram and Twitter, and then just Vertige app on Facebook. And yeah, I think like because that's one of the things I'm really like wanting to build the community around vestibular disorders, around Vertige. Download the app, check it out, give me some feedback on that. Like it's all appreciated.
Awesome. I'll include all of your connections in the show notes just so they know.
Okay.
So, is there anything else you want to share before we go on to whirlwind questions?
Um, I recently became a VeDA Ambassador, which I'm so excited about.
Yay!
I want to thank you for like giving me that extra push to fill out the application and put it through. I'm so excited about it. So
It's a
I'm gonna
great group of people.
It seems it. Like they just seem so great. And I talked to David off the bat, and then I had a call with Cynthia and Elizabeth, and I'm going to help with the communications committee. So it's awesome because I get to bring in some of my like different things I've done in the past and really put it to use to help like spread the word. And I'm so excited. So thank you
You
for
are welcome. I'm excited
working
that you
for me.
did that. And what she's referring to is vestibular.org. It's the Vestibular Disorders Association. She has become a volunteer, which we call VeDA Ambassadors, which I'm also. So, yay, our family's growing.
Yes, it is.
It's fantastic. Well, yay, I'm excited. I'm excited for all that. They do some wonderful things in the community. And there are so many more resources out there now than when I back in 2016 when I started having symptoms. So I'm just glad to see that Instagram is getting flooded with ambassadors. I love it.
Yes, it's so
Love it.
exciting.
I know. Well, before we go, I'd like to have a little bit of fun and just ask a few questions and just there's no wrong answer.
Okay.
Okay. So fill in the blank. Vestibular disorders are.
Ooh, vestibular disorders are, I mean, the first word that comes to mind is scary, but can be managed.
Yes, that's very true. And it is scary at first, but
Mm.
yeah.
But then it's okay once you know, can see the different options that you have. And I think that's really something great that's happening, that vertigo is becoming more well known and these disorders are getting a little more like publicity and press and just being talked about more. So, and then you know that there's hope, there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Absolutely, for sure. Now, you feel your symptoms coming on and you're trying to be brave. What's the first thing that you do?
I start with my alternate nostril breathing, and then if that doesn't work, I do reach for my rescue meds.
What's one thing people usually get wrong about you?
Hmm. I don't know. I'm a pretty open book. So honestly, I don't think there's many things that people get wrong about me. Like I'm pretty open and tell it like it is, and I don't really have any secrets.
Awesome. Cool. What's your favorite meal?
Um, you know what? I love my oatmeal in the morning. I feel like it grounds me for the day, and it's not very exciting at all, but I do oatmeal, chia seeds, and some protein powder, and I feel like that's a good start to my day overall. But I love a drink too. Like I will drink. I've recently been going back into like testing out the waters when it comes to caffeine, and coffee is a hard no for me. Like definitely can't do coffee or espresso, but I started like drinking matcha
Uh-huh.
again, and I just love like a matcha latte. So good. So sipping it very slowly so I don't get too much caffeine at once. But
Yeah.
I've actually been like pretty okay taking that. So,
Cool. I've never had one. I'll have to try that sometime.
oh my gosh, yes, it's like crack. I love it. A matcha latte with oat milk is like my go-to.
Is that something you can get at like Starbucks?
You can.
Oh,
Oh,
really?
it's so good. Yeah.
Dangerous. Okay. What's the last show that you binged and loved?
Oh, do you know what I just have been binging these last few nights is Inventing Anna. Did you ever see
Oh,
Anna
yes.
Delvey? And you know which one I go back to a lot? Dynasty, but the new version. I don't know why.
Really?
Dynasty, and then I watched like 3 seasons of that, and I was like, all right, I need to change it up. And then I was searching through, and Inventing Anna came up, so I've been
Yep.
watching that the last few nights.
She's so good in that.
She's so good.
It, I mean, did you ever watch her in the Ozarks?
I know she's from it, but I've never watched Ozark.
She's, yeah, she's really good. Yeah.
Hmm.
I wish she was in more stuff.
I know there was something on like Jimmy Kimmel or one of those where she like showed how she created the accent for
Uh-huh.
Inventing Anna. It was so cool to watch.
That's neat. She's a very interesting woman. That's for sure.
Yes, yes, definitely.
What is on your nightstand?
Oh, I have a stack of books. Everything from like inspirational quotes to a book about Reiki to I'm trying to think what other books. I always end up like putting a new book down every couple days. And my jewelry, like I have my little jewelry stand. I think they're the two main things on there.
What's the last book you enjoyed?
Um, Actually, I'm reading something now that I'm really into. It's about frequency healing and using tuning forks. And I've only just started it. Like I bought it a while ago and never really like started reading it. So picked it
Right.
up about like a week or so ago. And it's about how you can use the frequency from a tuning fork to dissolve blockages in your aura and in your,
Chakras?
yeah. It's
Where do you
really,
put the tuning forks, or is it different locations?
so it's the person who wrote this is an instructor, and she's done a lot of scientific research on tuning forks and frequency. So she, like, if you went to a frequency healing session, the practitioner walks around you with a tuning fork, and they can hear a difference in the sound. So if you like strike the fork and you're in this one area, and they do relate it to the different chakras, and then you start, because your energetic field can go out, I want to say like up to 8 or 9 feet. So
Mhm.
they start out kind of far, and then they walk inward with it, and then they can hear, I'm sure you can hear if you have like that good of hearing. Um, like if it starts to become like a more dull sound or something
Huh.
like that. And then they do they do something to be able to clear it. I'm not that
Interesting.
far yet, but it's
Yeah.
fascinating. And
So it's a little different than the singing bowls.
same type
But
of concept, I would say,
yeah.
with frequency.
Oh, cool.
It's really
That stuff is so interesting, the energetic fields and stuff like that. I'm fascinated. What's an activity that completely relaxes you?
yoga,
Yeah,
definitely.
cool. I agree. What movie could you watch over and over and never tire of?
Almost Famous. I didn't even have to think twice about that. I love that movie.
I saw that for the first time last year. I'll have to rewatch it. Yeah.
Just for the first time just
I,
now? Oh my
yes.
gosh. My sister and I have watched that a gajillion times. Like
Oh my God.
I love the movie.
That's great. I'll have to rewatch it because I don't even, I remember, I know that I watched it for the first time. I'm thinking, wow, it's been a while. Why? It's been out a long time. Why am I just watching this? That's crazy. What is your most used tool in your vestibular toolbox?
Hmm. I would say chiropractic appointments have been very helpful for me lately,
Yeah,
where I see a big difference after an appointment that I've done chiropractic care and like acupuncture for years and years and years, but I've been noticing a lot with my cervical spine that like my C1 seems to get stuck. So seeing like a chiropractor who knows about the cervical spine alignment and able to like help me with that,
right.
I notice a difference in my fullness in my ears, just in some off balance feelings. And I still go very sporadically. I don't do it every week,
Okay.
but that's something, breathing techniques, movement, like walking even, just taking my dog for a walk, or we have a treadmill and going on there. I just, being more active has been a huge, huge thing for me lately.
Great. I'll have to try the chiropractic thing. I haven't done that. I'm one of those that goes when I have an issue instead of doing it routinely as maintenance.
Yeah, I mean, I don't go very frequently. Like my doctor is up he's like 45 minutes away up where I used to work and where my mom lives, but whenever I'm up there, that's when I try to like sneak it in. Or if I am, getting to a point where I'm really starting to feel off, then I'm like, I know
Right.
it's time. And
Me
it
too.
used to be when that would happen, it would be the chiropractor and acupuncture because I'm
Hmm.
a big component. Like I love acupuncture. But yeah, lately I've been like leaning towards the chiropractic a little more.
Cool. Cool. I don't hear that too often, but I know that there are a lot of people that swear by that. So
Yeah.
very good. And the last question is, what are you extremely grateful for today?
I am so grateful for this vestibular community that I am a part of. Honestly, like meeting you and meeting so many people now and just being a part, like you feel like you're not alone. You see how supportive everybody is,
The
and
family. It
it is.
really is.
And
Yeah.
this is really what I've been like craving and wanting. So I'm so grateful to have met you and to like be a part of this now.
Oh, well, we're grateful for you. We need some more people out there that are like this and bringing something new to the table, should I say? So I love that. Love it, love it, love it. And you're going to find the more you reach out especially once your app goes, this family they're awesome. I mean, I have met so many sisters and brothers that I can lean on if I'm having a bad day. And I have symptoms daily. So just know that there are so many of us that are here for you if you ever need that. So, but thanks so much for being here. I'm excited for what lies ahead for
Yeah,
you.
thank you so much. I really appreciate it. This has been so much fun.
Thank you, Kristy. It's been so great getting to know you. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story with us and all that you do for the vestibular community. If you had a takeaway or something that really resonated with you, please reach out on social media and tag us. If you haven't left a review yet, let us know how you like the podcast, and your constructive feedback is also welcome. I absolutely love hearing from you and knowing what is resonating with you in the community. Thank you for listening. If you would like to reach out to Kristy or myself, please see the show notes for details. For more information on vestibular disorders, please visit the VeDA website at www.vestibular.org. See you next week, warriors.